My name's Michael Lanham. I'm with an organization called Learning Forward. We're a 40-year-old or 50-year-old, depending on who you ask, member association in education that works with school educators throughout the United States on professional development programs. And I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Learning Forward. We had several goals when we started looking at AMS platforms. When I joined the organization a couple of years ago, we discovered that we had 7 or 8 databases. And of course we didn't call them databases. They were FileMaker here and FileMaker there and Constant Contact here and Constant Contact there. I know there were probably a number of Excel spreadsheets. And people in the organization didn't really think of that as databases, but in fact they are. And one of the huge challenges was who has the latest version? Is it updated? How do we know all our new members are in there, and are there any members who've left who aren't in the database? We were also operating on borrowed time with our master database, which was an old Apple 4D database that frankly was older than a lot of the sales reps I talked to. So given the fact we were on borrowed time, given the fact we hadn't really invested in technology at that level for several years, it really was time to take a hard look and try to consolidate platforms, get to one master database, because that was the first step, and then revamping our entire web environment and beginning to look at our partner relationships and the single sign-on things and so on. You had to start at the first domino had to fall was the member database. We looked at a number of AMS platforms. I spent an entire conference with the ASAE shopping the floor and looking at different AMS platforms. I took advantage of some work that other members of in our organization and the staff had done, and MemberSuite had bubbled up to the top 3 pick a couple of years ago when we looked at platforms then, and other things got in the way and nobody pulled the trigger. So when we looked at AMS platforms, we really wanted something that was full-featured, that had a number of modules where we could run our events, where we could run our membership, where we could do our marketing, where we could integrate to QuickBooks, which is the enterprise software that we use for accounting. We needed something that really offered the ability for all the members of our staff to use the product and not have to go ask somebody else to run a report for them. So I was looking for the right licensing model. I was looking for the right price point with the right feature set. And we looked at systems where it was $300,000 to say hello and just sit down for the first day, to systems that were very, very basic and really didn't have all the features. And we took a year. We looked at a lot of systems, got a lot of proposals, and when we got through that process, the MemberSuite package and the pricing model, the software as a service format, cloud hosting, I don't want the servers, I don't want to have to take care of those, that's not our mission as an organization. All of those components kind of came together, and then you had a push for year-end sales, and we succumbed to the temptation and we signed the contract at the end of the year. So. But it was a very productive experience for us, and the sales team did a really good job of being patient and following up and letting us go through all of our checklists, to get through it. Yeah, in the sales process, I asked to speak to a number of your current clients, and one in particular, Sean Holloway in Columbus, was really helpful in talking through, and I think they'd been with you at that point 2 or 3 or 4 years, something like that. And he was pretty well informed about the whole platform and how it had evolved and the new version that had come out a year ago. And so I asked him about implementation. How disruptive was it? How much of our staff time is that going to take? How did the MemberSuite team do? What was the time window for implementation? Those kinds of things that we had to stitch in to our staff schedules. We have 20 staff members, we serve 10,000 members, we have 40,000 other people that we correspond with and work with in our field. So limiting or managing the staff commitment was really a key part of what we were looking for. It was interesting that he said the key for him was, and any delays they had in implementation weren't a result of MemberSuite's team or implementation process. was getting his team up to speed and committed to doing the testing, to do the database integration and test it and evaluate it, and really getting that whole process through his own organization was the gating and pacing issue for him. And that was really helpful, because that really changed a little bit how we were formatting our Go team for the AMS. We took 6 months and from start to finish and go live in July, but we had to commit 2 to 4 hours a week for every member of that team, and that was just the meeting time. That wasn't the go test and check databases and do those things. So it was a commitment, and I'm glad he said it the way he did, because I was able then to convey to our team, and we had a cross-sectional team working on it, from marketing to web developers to operations to membership, all in accounting, all involved in the process. And everybody knew day one what the expectation was for the 6 months, and their respective managers signed off, and they knew that was kind of how this was going to have to go. Yeah, there is a buy-in process that we had to go through, and fortunately we did a lot of that during our search process, where we had a number of people in the management and all the different departments involved in helping write the script of what do we want and what does it need to do and how does it need to help marketing and accounting and all of those different departments that get involved in this. So there was a level of buy-in up front, and then as we got into the implementation, we were fortunate enough that we were able to bring those people in, and sometimes there was a decision we had to make on the AMS team, but it really was a marketing question. So our marketing team would go away and meet on that on their own and bring back their request or their preferences to the AMS implementation team. The buy-in is critical, and I think that we had gone so long with our old systems that there really wasn't a question of whether we had to do it. It was a we got to do it, and we got to do it now, and so we boxed ourselves into it. We got to go now corner. So the buy-in was, that part of it was fairly easy. Yeah, we had an interesting data integration challenge. We had almost 30 years of data in our old system. And initially the objective was just, well, let's just bring the last 5 years of data in, and that's really all that we think is remotely reliable in terms of accuracy, and try to keep the amount of data down so we didn't have to do such a big implementation. Fortunately, the data layout was actually pretty straightforward when we exported it from our old system. And as we worked through the process with the implementation team for MemberSuite, we were really able to bring everything over, and we brought 108,000 records over. Now, obviously, not everything was neat and tidy in the right bucket in our old system, so we had to get creative a little bit in the data migration mapping that we did with Aaron and the rest of the team. But the second time we brought the data over actually was pretty darn close. We did a few tweaks and a few redos along the way, but doing it that way gave us really good data to test and go through training on, and we were able in the sandbox, which we use for the training side of it, to really see live data, what our customers' 360 profiles were really going to look like, and that was all part of the process. I was surprised that we had that much data, but it's nice now to be able to go back and look at some of that without having to dig into the old system. It's really all there in MemberSuite. The availability of a sandbox was really a gift. It was really a great way to do this, and the major benefit of having a sandbox where you can go play is that you can make mistakes and not mess anything up, and you can repair it very easily by just updating the sandbox. So from a courage standpoint, it gave everybody on the staff courage to go play, go do stuff. You can't break it, you can't hurt it, it's nothing that we can't recover from. So please go play, go do stuff and make mistakes and all of those things, because that's really the only way you can learn, is you've got to get your fingers dirty, get in the system and start playing with it. And so the sandbox, we still use the sandbox for training. We're about to set up an entire mock event with proposals and a voting thing, and then move it over into the event profile and set up the sessions. And I want to do that 18 months before our next conference so that we have, it's a full dress rehearsal. And you know, we're going to call it the October Chili Cook-Off event and have everybody submit recipes. But really I'm doing it just so that we actually touch every single aspect and every single feature of a big event, which is our annual conference. And we do a complete dry run 18 months ahead so that we can fully use the member suite system when we in December of 17. Talk a little bit about how it's affected our staff and the implications internally in the organization for since we've gone live. We have two offices, and one office in Ohio really handles all of our customer interface, signing up for membership, signing up for events, doing all of those kinds of things. All gets handled there. We had a habit in our Dallas office of calling the Ohio office and saying, "Could you run this report for me? Could you do this? Could you do that?" Because they were so familiar with the old database, and it was very clunky to use. And nobody in the Dallas group really spent enough time and enough training to get very good at all in the old system. Now we run our own reports in each office. You can save the reports, you can run the queries, you can set up automatic report runs that come out at a given time every week. We're gradually training everybody, and I've found that having a one-on-one session with an admin or another executive in our group, 20 minutes. That's it. Spend 20 minutes with them and show them how to do one thing. And then come back a few days later and 20 more minutes, show them how to do one more thing. But what's fun is people like it. They like to be able to go answer their own question, look up their own person. We're about to deploy the committees module, and I have 9 people in my organization that run committees of various types and flavors, and they share documents and all of this. So we did some modifications to the committees module that will be very important for us, and we're about to roll that out. And that's a huge step for us because we really use committees. So it's empowered everybody on the staff to have direct access to customer information and to do things that they need to do, answer questions when they get that phone call, and if we don't redirect everything to the Oxford staff. So it's been very powerful from that standpoint. We're real excited about the new Insight system, and we do track our data going back several years, and we do it on Excel spreadsheets today still. And so being able to have our data in the system and being able to track, for example, we have an annual conference this year in Vancouver. The last time we were in Vancouver was in 2004. So we track week by week how many registrations we have for that week compared to all of our conferences going back to 2004, and those graph lines go up the chart, and we're trying to see if we're ahead of schedule, behind schedule, because it tremendously impacts how we do our marketing and how we do our incentives programs and all of that. So we mine data religiously, but it's clunky today, and that's why the new Insight opportunity is really compelling for us, because we do look back. We analyze our membership rates, we analyze our renewal rates, we look back over history and time, and by time of year and week of the year, and we really do a lot of data mining today, but it's very difficult to do because we don't have all the tools at our fingertips.